Every stone here has been counted. One room inside has never been entered. It is not a crack or a gap in the stone, but a space roughly the length of a passenger jet, and nothing leads into it. The building is the Great Pyramid of Giza, and the room was found in 2017 by physicists who never went inside. Nobody has been in it, and nobody can tell you what it is for. To see why that is strange, you have to know how well this building is known. It is the most carefully measured object the ancient world left behind, and people have been checking those measurements ever since. Surveyors have mapped its base to within the width of a hand, and robots have crawled shafts too narrow for a child. And for 4,500 years, the largest empty space inside it went unnoticed. Start with what is certain, because with this building there is a great deal of it. It was raised as a tomb for a king called Khufu about 4,500 years ago. The work took around 20 years, and it swallowed more than 2 million blocks of stone. Some of those blocks weigh as much as a loaded truck, and the heaviest weigh more than a house. When it was finished, it stood about 150 meters tall, which is a modern building of 40 floors. It stayed the tallest thing people had ever built for more than 3,000 years. Nothing else came close. The four sides face north, south, east, and west, and they are almost exactly right. The error is around 1/10 of a degree on a base longer than 2 football pitches. So this is not a heap of rock piled into a shape, but a machined object at the scale of a mountain. Inside it, 3 rooms are known. A passage runs down into the bedrock and stops at an unfinished room, cut and then abandoned. A second passage climbs, and it opens into a corridor so tall that the walls step inward overhead. This is the Grand Gallery, which runs about 45 meters and stands high enough inside to hide a house. At the top of it sits the king's chamber, walled and roofed in granite hauled from 800 kilometers away. In the middle of that room, cut from a single block of stone, stands a granite box. It has no lid, and it is empty. It was already empty when the first men we know of broke in 1,200 years ago. The Arab accounts of that break-in describe a jar of coins and a body in stone. Scholars doubt all of it. What is certain is that the room built to hold a king held nothing at all. For a long time, that was where the story stopped, and there was no obvious way to move it. You cannot dig into a wonder of the world to find out whether there is more of it, but you can look through it. The idea belongs to a physicist named Luis Alvarez, and it is worth knowing who he was. He is the man who later worked out what killed the dinosaurs, with his son and a thin layer of rare metal in the clay. Long before any of that, he wanted to take an X-ray of a pyramid, and he worked out how. The sky is already doing it. Every second, particles thrown out by dying stars hit the top of the air and break apart. One of the pieces is called a muon, and muons are heavy, fast, and very hard to stop. They pour through the roof, through you, through the floor, and keep going into the rock below. Stone slows them down, and empty space does not. So if you lay a detector under something heavy and count muons for months, you can weigh what is above you. More muons arriving from one direction means less stone in the way. It is a shadow, read backwards. Alvarez put his detector in a chamber under the second pyramid at Giza and waited for the sky to do the rest. He surveyed about 1/5 of it and reported that there were no hidden rooms in what he had seen. The method had worked perfectly, and the pyramids simply had nothing to show him. Half a century passed before anyone thought to point a detector like his at the Great Pyramid itself. This time there were 3 teams, and they did not trust each other's equipment. One team used photographic plates that record a passing muon as a scratch, one used electronics, and one used gas. They worked from different places, some inside the pyramid and some out on the sand in front of it. If one detector was faulty or one team was fooling itself, the others would not repeat the mistake. All 3 came back with the same answer. Above the Grand Gallery, where there should be nothing but packed stone, there is a hole. It is at least 30 meters long. that is longer than the gallery underneath it, and as far as the muons can tell, roughly the same shape. The paper announcing it ran in Nature, and anyone can still go and read it. 6 years later, the same teams found a second space, much smaller, just behind the north face. This one they could reach. They pushed a camera the width of a pencil through a gap between two stones and looked inside. It is a corridor about 9 meters long, empty, with bare walls and a roof of huge slanted slabs. It leads nowhere, and it ends in solid masonry. The small one they could see into, the big one they still cannot. So what is it? 4 explanations are seriously held for what the space might be, and the people holding them are not cranks. The first is the dullest, and most Egyptologists think it is the right one. The gallery below the void has a ceiling that has to carry the weight of a small mountain. The builders already knew this, and above the king's chamber, they stacked 5 hollow spaces to take the load off. Those were found by tunneling, and they are covered in the red paint marks of the work gangs. So a large empty space over the Grand Gallery is exactly the trick these builders are known to use. But the spaces above the king's chamber are low and flat and tight, and this one is not. 30 meters is far more room than the job needs. The second explanation says the void is not part of the finished building at all. A French architect named Jean-Pierre Houdin has argued for years that the pyramid was built from the inside. In his model, a ramp spirals up within the walls, and the workers never have to come outside. When the building is done, the ramp stays where it is, sealed in. He put that model in print before anyone scanned, and it already had empty space in that part of the stone. But no other pyramid has shown a ramp like it, and a London Egyptologist called the idea far-fetched and horribly complicated. The third explanation is the one everybody wants, and it is the hardest to defend. It says the void is a room. That is less wild than it sounds. This building already holds a finished chamber with no body in it and no purpose anyone can name. It holds shafts the width of a shoebox that run for tens of meters and stop at little stone doors. The people who built it were willing to make spaces nobody was ever meant to reach. But a Muon tells you where stone is absent, and absence is not architecture. Until somebody sees a worked wall, a void is only a gap in the arithmetic. The fourth explanation is that the void is not one space at all. The heart of the pyramid is not neat, but rough blocks packed around with rubble, with gaps left everywhere between them. Egypt's former antiquities minister said the scan had found nothing, and that the paper offered his field 0. His reading is that a scatter of ordinary gaps, blurred together by a coarse instrument, can look like one long room. But 3 different detectors, in 3 different positions, all drew the same shape in the same place. A blur does not usually survive that, and the one measurement that would settle it is the one nobody is allowed to take. Here is where the evidence actually points, and it is not the answer anybody was hoping for. Most archaeologists who have read the scans think the void is structural, a space left to spread the weight, like the 5 above the king's chamber. Their reason is the corridor the teams did manage to look into. It sits directly above the original entrance, and it is doing exactly that job, holding the weight off the doorway. The building answered one question about itself, and the answer turned out to be engineering rather than mystery. That does not close it. A structural space of that size has no match anywhere in Egypt, and the teams who found it have never claimed to know what it is. So this is where it stands. 30 meters of empty air sit inside the oldest of the 7 wonders, above a corridor that thousands of people climb every day. There is no door into it, no shaft into it, and no permission to drill one. You can walk that gallery yourself. You can put a hand on the wall and climb the steps in the dark and pass underneath it without knowing. The people climbing in front of you will be photographing a room that anybody can walk into. The one nobody has ever seen is a few meters above their heads. We have been measuring this building for 200 years, and it is still choosing what to show us.